This video is not meant to glorify, justify, or diminish the atrocities and oppression caused by colonialism. Colonization was an often brutal, exploitative system that disrupted lives, eroded cultures, and caused suffering on a massive scale. However, history, no matter how dark, cannot be undone. What we can do is study its aftermath objectively. When we compare colonial powers like France, Spain, Portugal, Belgium, and Britain, a fascinating pattern emerges. Many of Britain's former colonies are today among the most politically, economically, and intellectually vibrant countries in the world. This is an exploration of why Britain, for all its colonial sins, may have left behind a legacy that helped empower its former colonies more than its rivals did. Before we dive in, go ahead and hit the subscribe and bell icon, like, share, and leave a comment below. It really helps the channel grow and keeps the conversation going. Now, let's get into today's thought-provoking topic. One of the most enduring impacts of British colonial rule was the emphasis on education, often driven by missionary efforts, but supported structurally through colonial administration. The English language became not just a tool of administration, but also a gateway to global discourse. Today, that legacy is powering success stories around the world. Take India, a former British colony. Home to the CEOs of Google, Sundar Pichai, Microsoft, Satya Nadella, and formerly Twitter, Parag Agrawal, India has become a global talent powerhouse. Its IITs, Indian Institutes of Technology, and IUMs, Indian Institutes of Management, are internationally respected. English medium education enabled millions of Indians to seamlessly integrate into global industries. In Nigeria, another former British colony, the influence of English has helped produce one of the world's largest film industries, Nollywood, as well as a diaspora of highly educated professionals. Nigerians in the United States, for instance, are among the most educated immigrant groups, with many excelling in medicine, law, and academia. Meanwhile, Zimbabwe, despite economic challenges, boasts the highest literacy rate in Africa, a statistic that has its roots in an early investment in formal education during the colonial era. When compared to former colonies of France or Belgium, many British ex-colonies in Africa show relatively better political stability. While no post-colonial nation has been free of struggle, the system of indirect rule employed by Britain, where local leaders were often incorporated into administrative processes, created governance structures that, while imperfect, allowed for some continuity post-independence. In Ghana, the first African country to gain independence from Britain in 1957, democratic governance is relatively robust. Botswana, another British colony, is widely praised for its consistent democracy and prudent economic management. Compare this with Francophone Africa, where nations like Chad, Central African Republic, and Mali have faced repeated coups and military takeovers, often with persistent French interference even in post-colonial times. South Africa, the industrial and economic powerhouse of Africa, owes much of its infrastructure, legal system, and industrial base to its British colonial past. Though marred by apartheid, a product of both British and Dutch settler colonialism, South Africa emerged as a beacon of economic progress post-independence. Australia, originally a British penal colony, is now one of the most prosperous and stable countries in the world. Its economy, democracy, and global influence are deeply rooted in the British parliamentary and legal systems. And then there's the crown jewel of Britain's former colonies, the United States of America. Born from a colonial rebellion, the United States is today's global superpower. The founding fathers were British subjects, educated in the Enlightenment traditions of Locke and Newton. The English language, common law, and democratic principles they inherited are the very fabric of American society. English is the global language of business, science, diplomacy, and the internet. Countries that emerged from the British Empire had a significant head start in global integration. The Anglosphere, comprising countries like the United Kingdom, United States, Canada, Australia, India, South Africa, and Nigeria, dominates the cultural, technological, and intellectual exchange of the modern world. Even in the tech space, countries like Kenya and Ghana are growing hubs for innovation, leveraging their English-speaking populations to attract international investment and collaborate across borders. British colonisation often left behind more functional civil service structures, legal systems and universities. The British model of governance, rooted in parliamentary democracy and rule of law, was more exportable than the often centralised Francophone model. While corruption and dysfunction plague many countries, former British colonies more often have the institutional memory to rebuild and recover. None of this is to say Britain's colonial record is clean. It is not. From the brutal suppression of the Mau Mau rebellion in Kenya to the Bengal famine to the slave trade and racial segregation policies, it is important to never forget the immense human cost of empire. But as we assess the long-term outcomes, a pattern becomes clear. Many of Britain's former colonies are thriving in ways that those of Spain, Portugal, France and Belgium often are not. Spain's former colonies in Latin America have suffered from chronic instability. Portuguese colonies like Angola and Mozambique were devastated by civil wars and remain underdeveloped. Former Belgian Congo, now the Democratic Republic of Congo, has seen some of the worst human suffering in modern history. The most remarkable part of this history is how people in former British colonies have taken the tools left behind, language, education, legal frameworks, and transformed them into engines of global leadership and innovation. Whether it's tech leaders in Silicon Valley, doctors in the NHS, filmmakers in Nollywood, or activists in South Africa, the children of the British Empire have rewritten the story on their terms. In conclusion, colonialism was a dark chapter, but in the ashes of empire, something new emerged. While all colonial powers left behind wounds, Britain, perhaps uniquely, also left behind seeds of language, governance, and education. And today, those seeds have grown into powerful, independent nations that are shaping the world in ways no empire ever imagined. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share, and leave a comment below. It really helps the channel grow and keeps the conversation going. Now let's get into today's thought-provoking topic.